Hi, John. Sarah from Nerdtainment.
Hi.
We heard you say you wanted to make a move instead of hoping for the best, but then we kind of just see you going along with Andy. Can you talk me through your move?
What do you mean see me going along with Andy?
Well, what we see in the edit is Andy proposing Annika, and then from there you kind of just followed talking to Sam. Was that your move, hoping to get Annika out?
So it's a little bit more complicated than that. I think that the challenge, right, is because of what happened with the kind of discombobulation on the mat, a lot of the options kind of narrowed. And from the moment we get back, right, I talked to Sierra, Annika, and Rachel, and they're like, "Oh, it's got to be Andy," which instantly told me it wasn't, right? That like it basically seemed like the play, which is what I would do, totally respect it, totally makes sense, is to tell me it's Andy, but then have the vote be on me because of Shot in the Dark. Andy has just basically said to the whole group of 18, I'm not a threat. I'm kind of a mess. So why wouldn't you want to bring Andy along? I'm more of a threat. Like I just totally understood that. But that created a really difficult dynamic, which is how do you persuade a group of people to vote for Andy? I don't know why it's doing that. How do you persuade a group of people to vote for Andy when they're already telling you they're voting for Andy, right? Like you're having a conversation about voting for Andy. I don't believe that that is what they're going to do. And yet I have to persuade them to actually do it. And that felt impossible. And so what happens on the mat after Andy does what he does is I think, and you sort of see a little bit of it, there's a longer conversation, but basically what I'm trying to do is not make Andy feel as though because he just said what he said about me that he was no longer working with me while at the same time trying to leave myself options to work with everybody else. Because I just felt kind of stuck. Like in the first moments, there were these just natural pairings because Andy had pulled me for even a moment. And maybe this is what would have happened anyway. There was just a natural way in which I felt like Sierra and Sam paired off, Annika and Rachel had paired off. And so that just left me and Andy, or that probably was a little bit just, it just sort of, these just sort of who knows why that's how it kind of broke down. But I had had a really good conversation with Annika. Like I felt kind of connected to Annika. The challenge was Rachel was, I think, rightly not trustful of Andy. And so Andy had talked to Sam. And so like you start looking at it, Sam is a bit closer with Sierra, and you start doing the numbers. In a group of six, there's not a lot of places to go. Annika's name had come up a couple times, I think from Sam as well, but I'm not totally positive of that. Regardless, because I knew Sam wouldn't go for Sierra, because I think Rachel was mistrustful of Andy, uh, it just became the only other way to go that wasn't Andy. So once it felt pretty clear to me, I couldn't persuade people to vote for Andy because the more they seemed persuaded, the more sure I was the vote was on me. The only choice was to try to find somewhere else to put it. And there's conversations you don't see of me pulling in Sam and Andy and basically saying, we should vote for Annika. That may result in a tie. Sam, you'll get Sierra in that moment. And then Annika will go, and this group of they're basically me, Andy, and Sam would be in a much stronger position. I still think that that was probably right, but you don't see all that play out because I think it was complicated and didn't ultimately transpire. But just like in the moment at the vote, I'm sort of aware of like these dynamics. And basically, what I was weighing is, do I think I have a 1 in 6 chance with a shot in the dark a better possibility than the odds that I've actually wrangled Sam, basically, because I think Andy would have done it.
Mhm.
Sam to come along. And I thought that was maybe 20-30%, right? Which is what it turned out to be.
Jumping back to the plan for tribal, was there ever a moment in your mind that you considered going to Annika and throwing Andy under the bus for saying her name?
Yes, and I do believe it happened. I like yes. I like there's so this is the thing. The moment there was hours of like and you know
Yeah.
I knew this going in, you know this going in like oh 24 hours a day is compressed into one episode. There were so many conversations like that. And I do believe there was that specific conversation with Annika. But again, like Sarah, everyone is telling me it's Andy. Right. So it's like and like this is what, like, I don't have any regrets about what happened after the tribal. And look, this is how it unfolded. You can go back and second guess yourself. But like I like had a really good rapport with Annika on the first day. And just by happenstance of how we just didn't get that time again. And I knew she was really smart. And the problem was I knew how smart Annika was. I knew how smart Rachel was. I knew if I was in their shoes, I probably would vote for me too. And so when I'm talking to Annika about getting the vote back onto Andy, I didn't know if I could trust it. I really didn't. And now I didn't know in the game that actually Annika was basically trying to persuade Rachel, Sierra, and Sam to actually vote for Andy. I couldn't know that, right? So it just seemed like there was a kind of, like, I thought of Rachel and Annika as a group. I felt that Rachel was suspicious of Andy. There was some hope for me there, but I think my sense, because of Sam and Sierra, which I think turned out to be true, is that like the four of them just felt like, because of Andy's meltdown, he was a little bit desperate. Let's just throw it on to Jon. And so, yes, that conversation with Annika absolutely happened.
Thank you so much, Jon.